Week 11 was massive for the top of the AFC. We're going to break down that and more today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started.
Joe, happy Victory Monday to everyone who is observing here on the heels of the Sunday of Week 11 of the 2024 NFL season. We have a lot to get to, including the race for the number one overall pick heating up, especially off the heels of that Saints-Browns game yesterday, which had a decided winner. Some crazy finishes in the NFC in the final minute. But the top of the AFC, as you mentioned, Joe, is where it feels like the biggest storylines, the most heavy-hitting storylines from Week 11 fall, whether that's Kansas City and Buffalo at 425, whether that's in the 1 o'clock slate. You had Baltimore and Pittsburgh in kind of a race for the top of the AFC North. You had the Chargers kind of keeping pace on Sunday Night Football. So each time slot had some pretty heavy implications for some of the top records in the AFC.
The bye week matters a lot this year for Kansas City. They had a week 6 bye, which, as we know, the Super Bowl winners are typically correlative to later season buys. That's an early bye. Feels like this is an important year for Kansas City to be able to get that. And they're still number one in the AFC. They're 9-1. Buffalo 9-2. Pittsburgh's 8-2. So the Chiefs will have to have a hiccup along the way.
Yeah.
An additional hiccup, if you will, and other teams will have to take care of their business. But the loss to Buffalo certainly opens the door, not only for Buffalo, but also for Pittsburgh, and maybe a puncher's shot for Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know that I'm fully buying in, but with the Ravens getting a 4th loss and not having a head-to-head over Kansas City, it just doesn't feel like that's going to be in the cards for them this year.
Yeah, I think the warts that you saw with Baltimore as far as kind of defensively, it didn't necessarily rear its head in this game, but Pittsburgh's just had a lot of good head-to-head success against the Ravens in their recent history of these two matchups. So the fact that, Pittsburgh now sitting at 8-2, you consider their schedule from here on out, Joe. I mean, they have a chance to really put a stranglehold on this division. They play on Thursday this week against the Browns.
Yep.
They'll be looking at 92. And then you get extra rest to go in and play the Bengals. Now, the Bengals will be coming off of their bye, so they'll be rested too. But they go Browns, Bengals, Browns next 3 games.
But then
it gets interesting.
Yeah. At Philly, at Baltimore, hosting Kansas City.
That's Wednesday.
Yeah.
For Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah. Merry Christmas, 1 o'clock. Get the presents done. Get in front of the TV, right?
It's the opposite of Thanksgiving this year. Take your time on Thanksgiving.
Boy, take your time. Take your time, folks. Enjoy the family. Get a nap in. Sleep right through Cooper Rush and Tommy DeVito and watch Packers Dolphins on the nightcap. But, yeah, I think for the Steelers, that stretch is going to define their season. And Kansas City also, they're going to have some opportunities. They do play Pittsburgh. They get another one against the Chargers. They get a finish at Denver. It feels like, though, of the remaining teams that are in the race here, the team that has the lead is the one that has the clear path. But also, I think we've been waiting for the Chiefs to lose. They did.
Yep.
And what does that mean moving forward? Is there anything that other teams can glean from what I thought was a very effective game plan for Bobby Babich defensively with the cage rush and how they were able to kind of really bottle up Mahomes for a lot of the game and take away Travis Kelce, and DeAndre Hopkins was really quiet. So we'll see. I mean, Kansas City, obviously they're the kings of the NFL despite the loss, but I think it's all about how they go from here, and they've won a lot of close games. It's not like they've been a machine this year.
Yeah. I think everybody else is playing against Kansas City. Maybe you can replicate some of it, but what Buffalo does so well, and we've talked about this on the show before, but it's the structure on the back end and how they leverage stuff really, really well, and how they space the back end really, really well. And you mentioned the cage rush. The list of teams that can do something similar, I think Pittsburgh maybe has some compelling pieces. I think Joey Porter would have to play best game of the season for that plan to work in the degree in which I think, Buffalo has a corner and Christian Benford. Porter's a good player. Chargers, I think there's a very specific game script for the Chargers. But this one, the rematch between these two teams, it's in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So you look at Kansas City sitting at 9-1, even off the loss. Congrats. You get the Panthers next week. Then you got the Raiders at home on a short week on Friday, Black Friday game. And then you get the Chargers at home, and then you got to go to Cleveland to play the Browns. And that's through week 15 for Kansas City. So even with the shortcomings, I look at those four teams and I don't see a lot of replicatability in how Buffalo was able to kind of stymie Kansas City at stretches throughout the game on Sunday night.
I think what's exciting for Buffalo, who now goes into their bye week, is what this offense can be. I don't know that we've seen the best of it yet. And in this game against Kansas City, no Dalton Kincaid, no Keon Coleman, no Spencer Brown at right tackle. Put 30 points up against Kansas City for the first time in 30 games, right? Really, you look at the metrics for the Bills offensively in this game, there was certainly some inefficiency on early downs. They didn't quite run the ball as well as they typically would, but a lot of third down production, a lot of big plays in the passing game. And the Bills should really hit their stride out of the bye with what they have offensively, not to mention you're knocking on the door of Matt Milano returning to the defense. So I think the Bills are well positioned. They got a big one on the road against Detroit. But certainly it feels like the Bills have a decent shot at the number one seed if Kansas City can find another loss.
Yeah, I think the NFC West has a chance to play a little bit of spoiler here, but neither one of those two teams in LA or San Francisco the last couple of weeks has been very consistent. So I'd pick Buffalo to win both games, but they're not lie-down games like I think you look at some of the other opponents that we've been talking about in the next 3 weeks for some of the other teams. The bye at a big time for them to prep and get San Francisco at home. You got to love that. But then that Rams team's just got a little bit of bipolar to them sometimes.
Yeah.
And they were super hot, and then they've kind of cooled off. They held off the Patriots with a last-minute push is one of the weird finishes we'll talk about in the NFC in just a couple minutes here. But get your popcorn ready for Lions-Bills Week 15. I mean, that might be a Super Bowl matchup.
Lions are a wagon. It certainly feels like that, right? And we'll see if that game is flexed. Yeah, there's a lot to deal with.
Absolute load.
Jesus, man, there's a lot to deal with. All right, so that's the AFC. Bills beat the Chiefs. The Steelers beat the Ravens. Feels like the Ravens are kind of out of that top seed mix. And we got a compelling.
Chargers vanquished the Bengals.
Right. Yeah.
From the picture, it seems like at 4-7, probably too
and just exposing too many issues with Cincy, man. Anybody's listened to me talk all this season, you feel like I've been just like in on Cincinnati, and it's making it hard. Like the clutch factor's not there. They don't make plays on defense. McPherson suddenly stinks now, and Burrow can only do so much, man. I mean, he made some crazy plays in that game, but it's like legitimately not enough around him right now.
Joe also laid it all on the line last night too. I think the way you ever see the Grand Theft Auto? Have you ever seen the?
I saw your tweet, man. I don't know anything that was about. Yeah, but
so it's Grant said he had like 5 or 10 Grand Theft Auto 5 like car crash collisions, and like your game character, if they get hit, they just ragdoll, right? And they go limp in the air and they're flying in the air. And Joe just got smacked over and over and over. You could tell he was playing with the urgency of what the game meant for Cincinnati in their season.
Right. They had to have it.
But if he plays like that again against Pittsburgh, those hits are going to start taking their toll. And so they're on their bye, and then they come out of the bye and they get Pittsburgh in week 13. Now, the good news for the Bengals is if they win that game, then they got Dallas and Tennessee and Cleveland the next 3 weeks, and the Cleveland game's at home on a short week. So, like, I could still see this team pushing close to 500, getting 8-9 wins, but that's what made this game such a backbreaker, that they had the opportunities. Herbert played horrible in the second half. They climb all the way back in it. They get like 3 chances to take the lead in the fourth quarter. You get 2 missed field goals as a part of that. And then the Chargers go down. They stick the dagger in you.
The Bengals are going to be kicking themselves, losing week 1 to Patriots, a close loss to the Chiefs, a close loss to Washington, the 2 crazy Ravens games. It's like, man,
it's game inches.
You do it or you don't. You do it or you don't. The Bengals are not doing it this year.
Life's just a game inches.
Yeah. All right, Al. All right, let's talk on the other side of it about some of this crazy stuff going in the NFC. Folks, be sure to stick with us. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and a whole lot more. Plus, all of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register, hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I personally love that Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks now also offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried about you getting through the read there.
Brother, we powered, baby. We found it. I just talked a little bit louder.
Dig deep.
Do a lot of talking here. You know what I mean? A lot of stress on the throat.
There is no worse feeling than being 5 seconds into an ad read and feeling the tickle in your throat and knowing in a perfect world you stop and clear it, but you got another minute and 55 seconds that you got to push through. So round of applause for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, resiliency, had to find a way.
Speaking of finding a way and resiliency, which one of these games you want to do? The Packers?
Yeah.
Beating the Bears in second straight week. We've had a blocked field goal deciding a football game. Just hope your team's not on the end of it next week. And in condolences to Bears fans, I cannot think of a worse way to lose. Actually, I can think of worse ways to lose, but it's got to be a very gut-wrenching way to lose a football game than to lose on a blocked field goal.
Yeah, I mean, Cairo Santos, he's had distance issues for a while now. And I couldn't believe he made like a 53-yarder earlier. It was like a knuckler. He kicks the ball low. He doesn't have much leg power.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a huge swing. I mean, the Packers were staring at 6-4?
Yeah.
And the Bears are staring at
5-5.
5-5. And I think that's, if you're a Packers fan, I think on one hand, you recognize that you have not played your best football. On the other hand, you recognize that you're 7-3.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism, especially when you consider where this Packers team has been in the position they've been in a couple of the past few seasons, right? This is a team that's dug themselves big holes.
Yeah. 3-6 last year, right?
And now you're not playing well. And lo and behold, you're still through 10 games, you're 7-3. There's a lot to troubleshoot, a lot to figure out. Some of the variance with Jordan Love. He's pretty efficient from a passing perspective, only 17 attempts.
The pick was killer, though.
Yeah. The efficiency issues there and the consistency issues there are a little unnerving. So they'll have to sort all that out. But the fact that they can now get their heads on straight, they play another big NFC game this upcoming Sunday against San Francisco with a chance to kind of, I won't say put a dagger in the 49ers, but really put the 49ers season on the rocks after San Francisco is the other NFC game with the wild last-minute finish with Geno Smith running in a touchdown with the Seahawks down 17-13 with the 49ers missing a couple pieces. But yeah, you could be missing a couple pieces all you want. At the end of the day, that's a rough loss for the 49ers to take on the nose as they try to climb out of the hole that they've kind of dug themselves in.
They're the 10 seed right now. San Francisco's 5-5, the 10 seed. Like, they are on the outside looking in. That's why a win like that for Green Bay was so big. Now you don't want to be
a little bit of
up
separation this time of year goes a long way.
Yeah, and even Minnesota, like, they're 8-2, but boy, they've been scratching the last few weeks. But they're 8-2.
Right.
You build yourself that
win
margin.
the last 3 games now.
Yeah. Now
you don't look now, but Washington right now is 7-4, and they are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're 7 seed.
Yeah. 3-5 lost teams right on nipping on their heels, man.
And three teams in the AFC or the NFC West that are capable of playing good football. Several of those teams in San Francisco and the Rams have kind of been there, done that before. I think that's the thing that's a little scary about Washington when you put on the Cliff Kingsbury EPA offense roller coaster. Have you seen like the annual splits, how they drop off in the second half every single year?
I haven't seen it, but when you started to say that, I'm thinking of all of the Cardinals collapses down the stretch, and I'm like, yeah, I see that.
It is a thing. And then you factor in all of the new with the new head coach and the young quarterback, who I think Jaden Daniels will be fine. But I think you could tell the rib injury has been impacting him a little bit the last couple of weeks. He's been a little less efficient. And then you got experienced teams in the Rams and 49ers that are trying to chase you down. Like, that's not the kind of teams I would want to see in the mirror if I was the team right now sitting on the bubble.
Right. Washington's next 3, Dallas, Tennessee, New Orleans Saints, before finishing with Philly, Atlanta, and Dallas.
They need to get the next 3.
Yeah, and then win one of your last 3, 11 wins, you're going to make it, right?
Right.
I think we had this conversation, though. This is already a successful season for Washington.
Absolutely.
I almost can't think about Denver.
Fans don't want to hear that right now in week 11, and we're sitting here talking about, they'll just win.
Right.
Get to 11 wins, win 4 more games the rest of the way, make the playoffs, and call it a day. But this West chase is going to be interesting. And just the Seahawks win against San Francisco was the ultimate wrench. You're sitting here wondering, are you going to start to see a little bit of separation from this group? And they pull it all back together again with Arizona now sitting at 6-4 and everybody else 5-5.
Yeah, Arizona had their bye week this week. They come out at Seattle, at Minnesota, and then Seattle again.
Okay, so say that again. We're talking about. I kind of want to
Arizona at Seattle.
Yep.
At Minnesota. Host Seattle. Then you go Patriots.
We think they win. Want to go conservative and say they split with Seattle and maybe lose in Minnesota? Be 7-6.
I think that probably, yeah, but I feel like I've been dogging Arizona all year. So,
well, it's gonna lighten up because they get New England, they get Carolina, the next 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, I should win both of those.
1, 2, 3. So now you're talking 9 wins, and then can you win? Dude, this team has 5 division games left.
Yeah, it's like Pittsburgh also has 5 division games left.
So then the Rams sitting at 5-5, a game behind. Arizona won the head-to-head, so they're technically a game and a half behind. Rams have Eagles this week. Then they're at Saints. Then they're hosting the Bills. And then they're in San Francisco on a short week on a Thursday.
I don't really like that.
And then they're at Jets, West Coast trip. And then they have Cardinals and Seahawks coming to town the last 2 weeks.
I don't like for the Rams having Philly, Buffalo, and San Francisco.
And San Francisco's on a short week.
In San Francisco.
Yes.
I don't.
That's gonna be a tough hill to climb.
You got to feel pretty good if you're the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, let's look at the Seahawks. We just said they're going to split with the Cardinals, right? So they get a win there. They play the Jets. They get the Packers at home, the Vikings at home. They have Chicago, and then they go to the Rams week 18.
They got a ton of road games, huh?
Yeah.
Four
That's
of
gonna be
the
a
last
bloodbath
6 on the road.
This is a team that lost to the Giants at home. They lost to the 49ers at home. They lost to the Bills and the
They've
Rams
lost 4 in a row at home. Friggin' Seahawks.
Yeah, it sucks. That's going to be what kills them this year.
Defend your dirt, baby. Defend your dirt. Okay.
And then, of course, San Francisco is the first place schedule. They still play the Lions. They play the Packers. They play the Bills.
You don't feel good about that, do you?
Cardinals.
San Francisco missing the playoffs, and it's not because Purdy's healthy all year. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
That'd be tough, man. Boy, that'd be tough. That's why you play them all, see what happens.
Play them all, see what happens.
The race for the number 1 pick. If your team's not in the playoff mix, we still got love for you here. We're talking about that on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with us. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's number 1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I had fun this weekend on FanDuel. I had anytime touchdown props for Xavier Worthy and Curtis Samuel. Boy, it felt good to cash those tickets. So get in on the action for yourself over at FanDuel. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Cheers to anybody else who started Jonnu Smith this week in fantasy football. Feels like the tight end position has been super volatile this year.
For sure. Yeah.
It's like all the guys that were supposed to hit, like Laporta after the big year last year.
He's done nothing.
I double dipped on both of them and I started Jonnu Smith this week because both guys were out.
Wow. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
No, it's not a bummer because Jonnu Smith got me 27 points.
Yeah, that's a good win there. Yeah, if Allen and Kincaid get on the same page, he's got 13 off-target throws, which is the most of any tight end in the league, and they're all down the field.
So do you feel that is just lower percentage throws as shots, or is it a feel for the space that he's supposed to be? Is there some Gabe Davis effect here?
I think there's some Josh Allen inaccurate throws to Dalton Kincaid that need to get cleaned up.
I'm trying to set the table for a Jacksonville Jaguars segue with Gabe Davis.
How's it going?
It's not going great. And now the reports for Mike Florio on NBC last night saying that Trent Baalke might keep his job as part of the package deal for Bill Belichick.
How is that even something that Bill Belichick would want? Is Baalke going to be a puppet for him?
Coming over the top and
okay, so he's with all due respect, he's an offensive-minded head coach that's a play caller. He's their offensive coordinator. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever that is, the offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy for Andy Reid, you know what I mean? That type of situation.
Hold the phone.
We got a wee-woo?
No.
Oh.
I want to make sure my dates align here, but I might have solved the mystery. Yeah. Guess who worked together?
I'm guessing Trent Baalke and Bill Belichick.
And Bill Belichick. You got to go back to 1998 and 1999 with the New York Jets.
Just became BFFs 25 years ago. And
absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's your nugget with the Jets. Bill was the assistant head coach, defensive coordinator. Trent Baalke was a scout on staff.
I think it's what Jacksonville should do. I really do. I think Bill's got to be their guy. I don't want to lose the content, though. It makes me sad. Makes me real sad. But Jacksonville right now, we're
just waiting on the announcement that they fired Doug.
Right, it's just going to happen as soon as we hang up here. They have the number 1 pick in the draft right now at 2-9. They're the only 2-9 team. They have sole possession of it. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2-8 teams that are knocking on the door, and the Titans, Browns, Raiders, and Giants. But the Jaguars in the cap, as they call it, the catbird seat. Is that the word?
Catbird seat, right?
Yeah.
They're out in front of the pack right now. They control their own destiny because they still play the Titans twice, Joe. Jacksonville plays the Titans twice.
Tennessee's going to beat them twice. That's going to be a problem for Tennessee. But, I mean, we'll see what they do. Maybe Will Levis has a life here.
Jacksonville also plays the Raiders.
Yeah, they'll play it all and see what happens. It's going to sort itself out.
Jacksonville has 3 games left against teams that are picking in the top 4 along with them right now.
Let me ask you this. What team needs the number 1 pick? Who's it
Oh,
most
that's a
important
very
for them to
complicated
get?
question because this
know.
draft class is complicated.
You don't want to be the team that's giving up your whole world to go get one of these quarterbacks, right? You don't want to be that team. Not these teams, man. There's not like a team that I'm like, oh, man.
Is it the Raiders? Because they're in the mess that they're in because they were in the quarterback market last year and then were on the outside looking in and got boxed out and couldn't make a pick.
That's tough, especially with Bo Nix going to Denver, and that's looking good. Boy, that's tough to get boxed out there. Yeah.
What? Bo is balling. So, cheers to all the other avid. You know what I did for selfish indulgence? I went back and listened to our breakdown on Bo Nix from March.
How was it?
Very complimentary. You were very surprised that you liked Bo Nix.
I mean, you watched tape.
Right. But it was like, I can't believe I'm living in this world, but I like Bo Nix.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And you invoked everybody's memories of Bo Nix were the first game he ever started at Auburn against Oregon. Yeah. And then he transfers to Oregon, and the first game he has is against Georgia, and they get shellacked.
Yeah.
And
that's all I was thinking
that happened after that point was like, wow, there's some really nice maturity here.
Yeah.
And we talked about Sean Payton and the fit for a guy that runs and executes his offense at a high level. And you're starting to see that with Bo Nix.
He was making plays, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, defense there in Denver. This is not a good conversation for the top of the draft, but
I think the Raiders are the team that needs it. Jacksonville's got a quarterback.
It would be good for any of them to have it. Obviously, it's a great position to be in. But you think for a team that needs a quarterback that doesn't want to give up stuff to get it, you think it's the Raiders?
Yeah, because I think they have other building that needs to be done. They're in a division that suddenly is looking like it's going to be a nightmare. You got to keep pace with the Peyton, Bo Nix Broncos with what they look like. You got to keep pace with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and you got to keep pace with Harbaugh and the Herbert-led Chargers. Like, you're rolling out here Gardner Minshew. Like, Gardner Minshew played as good of a game as he could play on Sunday, was very efficient, had one miscommunication for an interception in the final 4 minutes, and they lost by 15 points.
I think there's a case to be made for the Giants. Because the thing about the Giants, dude, is they got some guys, right?
Yeah.
They got Thomas. They got Malik Neighbors, KT, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Bobby Okereke. There's some players on this roster. Boy, they made a horrible choice to continue with Daniel Jones, and now he's been benched. We're putting in Tommy DeVito. And we got problems here because we can't play Daniel Jones because he's got a bunch of money that locks in if he gets hurt. And then the incentives for Drew Lock are not very good if he winds up having to play. They are telling us straight up, this is about we just need to get to the end of the season, and we don't want Daniel Jones to get hurt. And we don't want to pay Drew Lock any incentives.
Right.
Tommy DeVito does not give the Giants the best chance to win.
I don't know why you wouldn't play Drew Lock.
Do you see the incentives that exist here?
I'm aware. You're paying Daniel Jones what you're paying Daniel Jones. What are you worried about? $7 million in rollover cap? Like, come on.
Potentially. I mean,
okay, if you're going to pinch pennies that hard, like I guess you would pinch pennies that hard if you didn't pay Saquon Barkley over $2 million a season or whatever it was. So, touche, you got me. I think maybe the other angle for this is we're acknowledging there is a separation amongst the quarterback class. I agree that is the conversation for who needs this pick the most. Which teams have the less attractive sell for Shedeur Sanders? Because those are the team that really only have one quarterback to pick.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I know that you asked me a question. I'm not going to answer that directly right now, but Cleveland as well. Like if Cleveland can get the number one pick, have a good amount of talent on the roster, they've invested a ton to get it failed. Like it would mean a lot to them. Now, your question is who has the best pitch?
Who has the least? Who is the most unattractive destination for Shedeur? Because then you like you're boxing a quarter. It's Cam Ward or bust, really.
You kind of feel like Shadeur's going to be the guy here, right? Like, do you feel that way? Like predictively, I'm not asking for your assessment. Don't you feel like the NFL is mostly going to view Shedeur Sanders as QB1? Complicated.
The physical traits just don't blow you out of the water.
I know.
Like I think Cam's got a better arm. I think Cam's got better extended playability. I think Shedeur is better inside of structure, but Shedeur also refuses to punt on some plays that he should punt and goes big play hunting in his own right in ways that he shouldn't.
You got to be Joe Burrow if you're going to be the number one pick and don't have tools, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
You know what I mean? So it's like I would lean into trying to harness Cam Ward's ability would be my personal flavor between the two. I think they could both be quality starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Tennessee's got a decent pitch, got some young weapons, some young offensive line. Defense looks pretty good. I think the system will be pretty solid. I mean, like a West Coast passing offense seems okay to me.
I think Cleveland's the team with the worst selling pitch because you mentioned the roster for Tennessee. They get a young offensive line. Las Vegas and New York give you marketing appeal if you're Shedeur, which is, this newer generation of athletes like that is a bigger piece of the conversation. And Dion knows that better than anybody.
Yeah.
Because he did it 30 years ago. Cleveland, small market team, a lot of a looming salary cap floor to drop out from a cash spend perspective. 2 years of $50-something million fully guaranteed to another quarterback that you're not going to be able to get rid of. So your salary cap for the next several years is going to have significant, like multiple quality starters worth of money wrapped up in a player that would theoretically be your backup if you picked a quarterback at number one. I think all of that combined makes Cleveland the least attractive spot for Shedeur and therefore the team that would most benefit from having the number one overall pick to lock in.
Assuming he'll go there.
Well, Cam Ward.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So Cam Ward is presumably not going to do the
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that for Cleveland.
Eli Manning thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. Any other thoughts? Kind of we're all over the map today. We didn't go game by game, but I think the conversation was probably, I'd like to think it was compelling.
Yeah.
We gave Bo Nix a shout. I think authentically, I think the only game we did not mention in some capacity was Colts Jets.
This is our Colts.
This is our team. We bleed blue.
A-Rich, baby. A-Rich, let's go.
A-Rich over A-Rod.
Yeah.
Rodgers taking a sack there in the final possession, chance to go down. Just a rough-looking team, man.
It's unfortunate, honestly.
Yeah, things you hate to see.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys, as always, for checking out the show. We will be back again tomorrow. Got perhaps some draft content coming your way. We got definitely draft content on Wednesday. You just have to hit subscribe, come on back, see us, and find out where this week takes us here on Locked On NFL Scouting.